Right now, in this very moment, you are exactly where you need to be. I know that might sound strange, especially if you're going through difficult times, especially if you feel lost or confused or wondering how you ended up here. But I want you to understand something fundamental about life, about your life specifically. There are no accidents. There are no mistakes in the universe. Everything that has brought you to this point has been necessary for your growth, for your evolution, for your awakening. You see, most of us spend our entire lives fighting against what is. We resist our current circumstances. We tell ourselves stories about how things should be different, how we should be further along, how we should have made better choices. And all of that resistance, all of that struggle against what is, creates suffering. It creates anxiety. It creates this sense that we're not good enough, that we're behind somehow, that we've failed. But what if I told you that where you are right now is perfect? What if I told you that every single experience you've had, every heartbreak, every failure, every moment of doubt has been preparing you for something magnificent? What if this very moment right now is the doorway to a completely new way of living? You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know the next 10 steps. You don't need to see the whole staircase. All you need to do is take one step, and that step begins with acceptance. Not resignation, mind you, but acceptance. There's a huge difference. Resignation says, I give up. This is all there is. Acceptance says, this is where I am, and from here I can begin again. Think about a seed buried in the ground. That seed doesn't resist the darkness. It doesn't complain about being underground, about not being able to see the sun. The seed uses that darkness, that pressure, that difficult environment to transform itself. And one day, at exactly the right moment, it breaks through the soil and begins to grow toward the light. You are that seed. Your difficult times, your struggles, your moments of darkness, they're not punishments. They're the very conditions necessary for your transformation. Now, I want to talk to you about something that most people misunderstand completely. They think that change happens when you force it, when you push and struggle and fight your way through. But real change, lasting change, happens when you relax into it, when you stop resisting what is and start working with it instead. You've been trying so hard, haven't you? Trying to be someone different, trying to fix yourself, trying to become worthy of love or success or happiness. But here's the truth that will set you free. You already are worthy. You don't need to earn your worth. You were born worthy. You came into this world as a perfect expression of life itself, and nothing you've done or failed to do has changed that fundamental truth. The problem is that somewhere along the way you started believing the stories that other people told you about who you should be. Your parents had ideas. Your teachers had expectations. Society created rules about what success looks like, what happiness should feel like, how you should live your life, and slowly, gradually, you began to abandon yourself. You began to live according to someone else's blueprint instead of your own. But your spirit, your true self, has been calling to you all along. Every moment of dissatisfaction you've felt, every time you've thought, there must be more than this, that was your authentic self trying to get your attention. And maybe that's why you're here right now in this moment feeling whatever you're feeling. Maybe you've reached a point where you simply can't continue living the old way anymore. And you know what? That's beautiful. That's not a crisis. That's an awakening. When the old ways stop working, when the masks we've been wearing start to feel suffocating, when we can't pretend anymore, that's when real transformation becomes possible. That's when we're finally ready for a new beginning. So let me ask you something. What would happen if you just stopped struggling for a moment? What would happen if you took a deep breath and said, okay, this is where I am. I don't have to like it, but I can stop fighting it. What would happen if you gave yourself permission to be exactly where you are without judgment, without criticism, without shame? I'll tell you what would happen. You'd create space for something new to come in, space for clarity, space for inspiration, space for the universe to work on your behalf. Because here's something most people don't understand. When you're constantly struggling and straining and trying to force things to happen, you're actually blocking the flow of good into your life. You're like someone standing in a river, pushing against the current, exhausting yourself, when all you need to do is turn around and let the river carry you. This doesn't mean you become passive. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you align yourself with the natural flow of life instead of fighting against it. It means you learn to move with grace instead of force. It means you trust the process. And trust, that's a big word, isn't it? Trust is hard, especially if you've been hurt, especially if things haven't worked out the way you planned. But trust isn't about knowing everything will be okay. Trust is about knowing that whatever happens, you have the strength within you to handle it. Trust is about remembering that you've survived every difficult moment in your life so far. You've had your heart broken, and you survived. You've faced disappointments, and you survived. You've been through dark nights of the soul, and yet here you are, still breathing, still capable of growth, still capable of love. That's not weakness. That's incredible strength. And that strength is still within you right now. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's just been covered up by fear and doubt and all those voices telling you that you're not enough. But you are enough. Right now, exactly as you are enough. You don't need to wait until you lose weight or make more money or find the perfect relationship or achieve some goal. Your worthiness is inherent. It's not dependent on external circumstances. It's not something you earn. It's something you are. And when you really understand this, when you really feel this truth in your bones, everything changes. Because you stop seeking validation from outside yourself. You stop giving your power away to other people's opinions. You stop living your life according to someone else's standards. And you start living from the inside out instead of the outside in. This is what I mean by a new beginning. A new beginning isn't about changing your circumstances, although your circumstances might change as a result. A new beginning is about changing your relationship with yourself and with life itself. It's about coming home to who you really are underneath all the conditioning and programming and fear. And who are you really? You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your past mistakes or your future worries. You are not the roles you play or the labels other people have given you. You are pure awareness. You are consciousness itself, temporarily wearing a human costume, having a human experience. When you identify with your true nature, when you recognize yourself as this vast, eternal awareness, all your problems become smaller. They don't disappear necessarily, but they lose their power over you. Because you realize that you're not the character in the story, struggling with all these difficulties. You're the one watching the story unfold. You're the space in which the story happens. This isn't just philosophy. This has practical implications for your daily life. When you're identified with your thoughts and emotions, when you think you are your story, then everything feels personal. Every criticism wounds you. Every setback devastates you. Every fear consumes you. But when you recognize that you're the awareness witnessing all of this, you gain distance. You gain perspective. You can watch your thoughts without being controlled by them. You can feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. And from that place of awareness, from that place of inner stillness, you can make much better choices. You can respond to life instead of reacting to it. You can act from wisdom instead of fear. You can create your life intentionally instead of just letting it happen to you. So how do you get to that place? How do you access that awareness? You do it by becoming present. Right now, as you're reading these words, bring your attention to your breathing. Feel the breath moving in and out of your body. Notice the sensation of air moving through your nostrils. Feel your chest rising and falling. That's it. That's all you need to do. When you bring your attention to your breath, you automatically become present. You step out of the endless stream of thoughts about the past and the future, and you land in the only moment that actually exists, this one. And in this moment, right now, are you okay? I'm not asking if your life is perfect. I'm not asking if all your problems are solved. I'm asking right now, in this actual moment, are you fundamentally okay? You're breathing. You're aware. You're alive. And in this moment, that's enough. The suffering we experience doesn't usually come from what's happening in the present moment. It comes from our thoughts about what happened in the past or what might happen in the future. It comes from comparing our current reality to some idealized version of how things should be. It comes from resisting what is and wishing things were different. But what if you could just be with what is? What if you could meet this moment exactly as it presents itself without trying to change it or fix it or escape from it? What if you could bring a gentle curiosity to your experience instead of harsh judgment? When you do this, something miraculous happens. The struggle eases. The tension releases. And in that relaxation, in that softening, you create the conditions for change to occur naturally. Because change doesn't come from force, change comes from love. It comes from acceptance. It comes from being present with what is so fully and completely that transformation happens on its own. Think about it. Have you ever tried to force yourself to change something about yourself through self-criticism and judgment? How did that work out? Did beating yourself up make you more motivated or less? Did hating your body make you healthier? Did judging your past mistakes make you wiser? Probably not, because change that comes from a place of self-rejection isn't sustainable. It creates more of the same negative energy that caused the problem in the first place. But when you approach yourself with compassion, with understanding, with genuine care for your own well-being, everything shifts. You start making choices that honor yourself instead of harm yourself. You start treating yourself the way you would treat someone you truly loved. And from that place of self-love, real change becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but I've made such terrible mistakes. I've hurt people. I've wasted so much time. How can I just accept that and move on? And I hear you. I understand that guilt and regret. But staying stuck in guilt doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the people you hurt. It doesn't help you. And it certainly doesn't make the world a better place. What helps is learning from your mistakes and choosing differently going forward. What helps is making amends where possible and forgiving yourself where it's not. What helps is understanding that you did the best you could with the level of awareness you had at the time. And now you have more awareness. Now you can choose differently. Now you can be the person you wish you had been then. Every moment is a new beginning. Every breath is a chance to start fresh. You don't have to wait for New Year's Day or Monday morning or some perfect moment in the future. You can begin again right now, right here, exactly where you are. And beginning again doesn't mean denying your past or pretending it didn't happen. It means integrating your past, learning from it, and using it as fuel for your growth. Every difficult experience you've had has given you wisdom. Every failure has taught you something valuable. Every heartbreak has deepened your capacity for compassion. Nothing has been wasted. It's all been part of your education in being human. So what does your new beginning look like? Only you can answer that. But I can tell you this, it starts with a decision. A decision to stop waiting for perfect conditions. A decision to stop making excuses. A decision to take responsibility for your life, not in a way that blames you for everything that's happened, but in a way that empowers you to create what happens next. Because you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a creator. You might not be able to control everything that happens to you, but you can absolutely control how you respond to it. You can control the meaning you give to events. You can control the thoughts you choose to believe. You can control the actions you take. And that's where your power lies. Not in trying to control external events, but in taking full responsibility for your internal state. When you realize that no person, no circumstance, no past event has the power to determine your worth or your happiness, you become free, truly free. This freedom comes from understanding a simple but profound truth. You are not your circumstances. You are the one experiencing your circumstances. And you have the power to change your relationship with whatever you're experiencing. You have the power to find peace in the midst of chaos. You have the power to find joy even when things aren't perfect. You have the power to love yourself even when you feel unlovable. How do you develop this power? Through practice, through showing up for yourself day after day, through choosing presence over distraction, through choosing love over fear, through choosing faith over doubt. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. And let me be clear, this isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine when it's not. This is about being honest with yourself about where you are while simultaneously holding a vision for where you want to go. It's about acknowledging your current reality without getting lost in it. It's about feeling your feelings fully while remembering that you are not your feelings. You are the space in which feelings arise and pass away. Everything passes. This is one of the most important things you can understand. Whatever you're going through right now, it will change. It might not change as quickly as you'd like. It might not change in the way you expect, but it will change. Because change is the only constant in life. Everything is in motion. Everything is evolving. Everything is becoming. And you are becoming too. Every experience is shaping you. Every challenge is strengthening you. Every moment of darkness is preparing you to appreciate the light. You are not the same person you were a year ago or even yesterday. You are constantly evolving, constantly growing, constantly becoming more of who you really are. So, relax. Take a breath. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You just have to be willing to show up for your own life, to be present, to be honest, to be kind to yourself. Because here's what I've learned after all these years of studying human behavior, of working with thousands of people, of observing my own journey. The people who are truly happy, the people who are truly at peace, are not the ones who have perfect lives. They're the ones who have learned to work with whatever life brings them. They're the ones who have developed a strong relationship with themselves. They're the ones who know that their worth is not dependent on external validation. These people understand that happiness is not a destination to arrive at. It's not something you achieve once you get the right job or the right partner or the right amount of money. Happiness is a way of traveling. It's a choice you make in each moment. It's a practice, not a prize. And peace, real peace, doesn't come from having everything under control. It comes from accepting that you're not in control and learning to trust the process anyway. It comes from surrendering your need to know how everything will work out and being willing to take one step at a time into the unknown. The unknown is scary, I get it. We've been taught to fear uncertainty, to always have a plan, to know what's coming next. But the unknown is also where all possibilities live. It's where miracles happen. It's where transformation occurs. When you can learn to be comfortable with not knowing, when you can learn to stay present in the uncertainty, you open yourself up to opportunities that you couldn't have planned for or predicted. Life has a way of working out. Not always in the way you expect, but often in ways that are better than you could have imagined. But you have to be willing to let go of your rigid expectations about how things should unfold. You have to be willing to be surprised. You have to be willing to trust that there's an intelligence at work in the universe that's far greater than your limited human perspective. Some people call this intelligence God. Some call it the universe or source or higher power. The name doesn't matter. What matters is recognizing that you're not alone in this. You're not separate from life. You're an integral part of it. And just as your body knows how to heal a cut without your conscious intervention, just as nature knows how to grow a tree from a seed, there's a knowing within you, a wisdom that can guide you if you learn to listen to it. That inner wisdom speaks to you through your intuition, through your gut feelings, through those quiet nudges that tell you when something is right or wrong for you. But most of us have learned to ignore that voice. We've learned to trust external authorities more than our own inner knowing. We've learned to doubt ourselves, to second-guess our instincts, to look outside ourselves for answers that can only be found within. Your new beginning involves learning to trust yourself again. It involves quieting the noise of external opinions and expectations so you can hear your own truth. It involves asking yourself, what do I really want? What really matters to me? What kind of life do I want to create? And then having the courage to honor those answers, even if they don't match what other people think you should do. This takes courage, real courage, because it's much easier to follow the well-worn path that others have traveled. It's much safer to do what's expected, to fit in, to not rock the boat. But safe isn't always healthy, and fitting in often means abandoning yourself. And the boat sometimes needs to be rocked. You were not born to live a small life. You were not born to play small, to hide your light, to settle for less than what your soul is calling you toward. You were born to express your unique gifts in the world. You were born to love and be loved. You were born to grow and evolve and become more conscious. You were born to make a difference in some way, large or small, and the world needs you to step into that. The world needs your unique perspective, your creativity, your compassion, your courage. There are people whose lives will be touched by you in ways you can't even foresee right now. There are contributions you're meant to make that only you can make. But none of that can happen if you're stuck in the past, paralyzed by fear, or waiting for perfect conditions that will never come. So what are you waiting for? What's holding you back? Is it fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough? Whatever it is, I want you to understand something. That fear is not your enemy. That fear is just a part of you that's trying to keep you safe. It's the part of you that remembers getting hurt in the past and doesn't want to experience that pain again. But you can acknowledge that fear without letting it run your life. You can say to that fearful part of yourself, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I see you. I hear you. But I'm not in danger right now, and I'm choosing to move forward anyway." You can feel the fear and do it anyway. You can be scared and brave at the same time. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and taking action despite it. Courage is knowing you might fail and trying anyway. Courage is risking rejection in order to live authentically. Courage is choosing to be vulnerable even though you might get hurt. And yes, you might fail. You might make mistakes. You might fall flat on your face. So what? You've failed before and you survived. You've made mistakes before and you learned from them. You've fallen down before and you got back up. Failure is not fatal. It's just feedback. It's just information about what doesn't work so you can try something different. The only real failure is not trying at all. The only real mistake is letting fear keep you from living the life you're meant to live. The only real tragedy is getting to the end of your life and realizing you never really lived, you only existed. And I don't want that for you. I want you to really live. I want you to feel deeply, to love fully, to take risks, to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, to express yourself, to follow your curiosity, to honor your passions, to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to be real, because that's what life is about. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having all the answers. It's not about avoiding pain or difficulty. It's about showing up fully for the whole human experience, the joy and the sorrow, the triumphs and the defeats, the connection and the loneliness, all of it. And when you show up fully, when you stop holding back, when you stop playing it safe, something magical happens. Life meets you there, opportunities appear, synchronicities occur. The right people show up at the right time. Resources become available. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. But none of that can happen when you're playing small, when you're hiding, when you're waiting for permission or for perfect conditions. It only happens when you take that first step, even though you're scared, even though you don't know exactly where it will lead, even though you can't see the whole path. You only need to see the next step. That's all, just one step at a time. And each step you take gives you a clearer view of the next step. You don't need the whole map. You just need to start moving. And as you start moving, as you start taking action aligned with your true self, you'll notice something interesting. You'll start to feel more alive, more energized, more present, more connected to yourself and to life itself. Because you'll be living in alignment with your soul's purpose instead of fighting against it. Your soul knows why you're here. Your soul knows what you came here to learn, to experience, to contribute. And when you align with that, when you stop trying to force your life into some predetermined mold and instead allow it to unfold naturally, everything becomes easier. Not necessarily easy, but easier. More flowing, more graceful. You start to trust the process. You start to see that even the difficult times have purpose. You start to recognize that everything is working together for your highest good, even when you can't see how. You start to relax into life instead of constantly fighting against it. And that relaxation, that surrender, that's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's maturity. That's the hallmark of someone who's learned that control is an illusion and that true power comes from working with life instead of against it. So right now, in this moment, I invite you to take a breath and just relax. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, relax your mind. You don't have to figure everything out right now. You don't have to solve all your problems today. You just have to be here, now, present, and available to this moment. And from this place of relaxed presence, ask yourself, what is one small thing I could do today that would honor myself? What is one small choice I could make that would be aligned with who I want to become? What is one small step I could take toward the life I want to create? It doesn't have to be a big thing. In fact, it's better if it's small, because small, consistent actions create lasting change. Small steps taken every day will carry you further than big leaps taken once in a while. The key is consistency. The key is showing up for yourself day after day, moment after moment, choice after choice. And some days will be easier than others. Some days you'll feel motivated and inspired and ready to take on the world. Other days you'll feel tired and discouraged and tempted to give up. That's okay. That's normal. That's part of being human. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. On the hard days, be especially gentle with yourself. On the days when you feel like you're not making progress, remember how far you've come. On the days when you want to give up, remember why you started. On the days when you feel alone, remember that you're part of something much bigger than yourself. You are connected to all of life. You are supported by forces you can't see. You are loved by a universe that brought you into existence for a reason. You matter. Your life matters. Your choices matter. What you do with this one precious life of yours matters. And it's never too late to begin again. It doesn't matter how old you are, how many mistakes you've made, how much time you think you've wasted. Right now is a new beginning. Right now is when your life can change. Right now is when you can choose differently. So choose love over fear. Choose presence over distraction. Choose action over procrastination. Choose authenticity over pretense. Choose growth over comfort. Choose faith over doubt. Choose yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a way that honors the truth of who you are and why you're here. Because when you honor yourself, when you live from your truth, when you align with your purpose, you give others permission to do the same. Your courage inspires courage in others. Your authenticity gives others permission to be authentic. Your willingness to be vulnerable makes it safer for others to be vulnerable. You change the world by changing yourself. And that's what this moment is offering you. A chance to change, a chance to begin again, a chance to step into a new way of being. Not someday in the future when conditions are perfect, but right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are. You are exactly where you need to be for a new beginning. All the experiences that brought you here have prepared you for this moment. All the lessons you've learned have given you the wisdom you need. All the challenges you've faced have given you the strength you need. You have everything you need right now to take the next step. So relax, breathe, trust. You've got this. Not because you're perfect or because you have it all figured out, but because you're willing to show up. You're willing to try. You're willing to grow. You're willing to begin again. And that willingness, that openness, that's all you need. The rest will unfold in its own time, in its own way. Your job is not to control the outcome. Your job is to show up fully for the process, to be present, to be authentic, to be kind to yourself and others, to do your best and trust that your best is enough. Because it is enough. You are enough. Right now, exactly as you are enough. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're willing to ask the questions. Not because you've arrived, but because you're willing to take the journey. And what a journey it is. What an adventure. What a gift to be alive, to be conscious, to be here now in this moment with infinite possibilities stretching out before you. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, there will be difficulties. But there will also be joy and love and beauty and connection and growth and moments of pure magic that take your breath away. So relax into it. Trust it. Allow it. You are exactly where you need to be. Everything is unfolding perfectly. Your new beginning is here, right now, in this very moment. All you have to do is say yes. Yes to yourself. Yes to life. Yes to the adventure that's calling you forward. The time is now. The place is here. The person is you. This is your moment. This is your new beginning. Take it, own it, live it, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. You've got this, you really do, and I believe in you, even if you don't quite believe in yourself yet. Trust that belief. Let it carry you forward until you can feel it for yourself, and know that you're not alone. You never have been, you never will be. You are supported, you are guided, you are loved, always. So take that breath, take that step, begin again, right here, right now, exactly where you are. This is it. This is your time. Make it count. You know, there comes a moment in your life when you begin to realize that walking alone isn't a punishment. It's not something that happened to you because you're difficult or because you're too much or because there's something wrong with you. Walking alone is actually a sign that you've awakened to something most people spend their entire lives running from. You've awakened to your true self, and that changes everything. Most people live their entire lives trying to fit in. They spend decades molding themselves, shaping themselves, cutting off parts of who they are just to belong. They silence their inner voice because it doesn't match what everyone else is saying. They dim their light because it makes others uncomfortable. They follow the crowd even when the crowd is heading straight off a cliff. And they do all of this because they're terrified of being alone. But you're different. Something inside you refused to play that game anymore. Maybe it happened gradually or maybe it happened all at once, but at some point you looked around and realized that fitting in was costing you everything. It was costing you your peace. It was costing you your authenticity. It was costing you your very soul. And you made a choice. You chose yourself. You chose truth. You chose to walk alone rather than walk in the wrong direction with everyone else. Now, let me tell you something important. When you make this choice, when you decide to honor your authentic self, people are going to react. Some will be confused, some will be angry, some will call you selfish, some will say you've changed, and they'll say it like it's a bad thing. They'll try to pull you back into the old patterns, the old ways of being, because your growth threatens their comfort. Your evolution challenges their stagnation. Your light reminds them of the darkness they've chosen to accept. This is why the chosen ones walk alone. Not because they want to be alone, but because they're no longer willing to betray themselves for companionship. They've learned that being alone is not the same as being lonely. They've learned that you can be surrounded by people and feel completely isolated, and you can be completely alone and feel totally connected to the universe. You see, when you're living authentically, when you're aligned with your highest self, you operate on a different frequency. Most people are living in fear. They're operating from a place of lack, of scarcity, of limitation. They're worried about what others think. They're concerned with status and image and keeping up appearances. They're running on old programming, old beliefs that were handed down to them by people who are also living in fear. But you've broken free from that. You've recognized that there's another way to live. You've seen that life can be lived from a place of love rather than fear, from abundance rather than scarcity, from possibility rather than limitation. And once you see this, once you truly understand it, you can't go back. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you know. This creates a natural separation. It has to. Because you're no longer resonating with the same things. The conversations that used to interest you now feel empty. The activities that used to excite you now feel meaningless. The relationships that used to fulfill you now feel draining. And this isn't because you're being judgmental or because you think you're better than anyone else. It's simply because you've outgrown those things. You've evolved past them, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually beautiful. Think about a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. The butterfly doesn't judge the caterpillars. It doesn't think it's better than them. But it also doesn't try to crawl on the ground anymore, pretending it doesn't have wings. It flies. It has to fly. That's its nature now. And you, my friend, you have wings. You've transformed. And now you must fly, even if it means flying alone for a while. The truth is that walking alone is often a necessary part of your spiritual evolution. It's in the solitude that you truly get to know yourself. It's in the quiet that you hear the voice of your higher self. It's in the stillness that you connect with the infinite intelligence that flows through all things. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, by other people's opinions, by society's expectations, it's nearly impossible to hear your own inner guidance. But when you're alone, when you've created that space, that's when the real magic happens. This is when you start to understand that you're not really alone at all. You're connected to something much greater than yourself. You're part of the universal consciousness. You're an individualized expression of the divine. And when you tap into that connection, when you really feel it, you realize that you have access to infinite wisdom, infinite love, infinite power. You don't need other people to validate you because you're validated by the universe itself. You don't need other people to complete you because you're already whole. Now, I'm not saying that relationships aren't important. I'm not suggesting that you should become a hermit and never interact with anyone again. What I'm saying is that the quality of your relationships changes dramatically when you're not coming from a place of need. When you're not looking for someone to fix you or save you or make you feel worthy, you're free to have authentic connections. You're free to love people for who they are, not for what they can do for you. You're free to show up as your true self, not as the person you think others want you to be. But here's the thing. Not everyone can handle that level of authenticity. Not everyone is ready for that kind of real relationship. Most people are still wearing masks, still playing roles, still protecting themselves behind walls of pretense. And when you show up without a mask, when you're genuinely yourself, it makes them uncomfortable. It challenges them. It forces them to look at their own inauthenticity. And rather than do that inner work, rather than face their own shadows, they'll often reject you. They'll push you away. They'll tell you you're too intense, too serious, too much. And this hurts. Let's be honest about that. It hurts to be rejected. It hurts to be misunderstood. It hurts to watch people you care about walk away from you. But here's what you need to understand. Their rejection is not about you. It's about them. It's about their own fears, their own limitations, their own inability to meet you where you are. And you absolutely cannot make yourself smaller to make others feel bigger. You cannot dim your light to make others feel comfortable in their darkness. You cannot go backwards in your growth just to maintain relationships that no longer serve your highest good. This is one of the hardest lessons to learn, but it's absolutely essential. You have to be willing to let people go. You have to be willing to walk away from relationships that are holding you back. You have to be willing to stand alone in your truth, even when everyone else is telling you you're wrong. Because here's what happens when you do that. Here's what happens when you honor yourself, even when it's difficult, even when it's scary, even when you feel completely alone. You create space. You create space in your life for something better. You create space for people who can match your energy, who can meet you at your level, who can appreciate you for who you truly are. You create space for opportunities that align with your authentic self. You create space for miracles to occur. But as long as you're holding on to things that no longer serve you, as long as you're trying to maintain relationships that require you to be someone you're not, there's no room for anything new. There's no room for growth. There's no room for the life you're meant to live. So you walk alone for a while. You walk through the wilderness. You walk through the uncertainty. You walk through the fear and the doubt and the loneliness. And it's hard. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But you keep walking. You keep putting one foot in front of the other. You keep moving forward even when you can't see where you're going. You keep trusting even when you have no evidence that things will work out. And then something shifts. Slowly, gradually, you start to realize that you're okay. You're more than okay. You're actually thriving. You're discovering parts of yourself you never knew existed. You're developing strengths you never knew you had. You're accessing wisdom you never knew was available. You're connecting with a power that's been inside you all along. You start to see that this time alone wasn't a curse. It was a gift. It was exactly what you needed. It was the universe giving you the space to grow, to heal, to transform. It was stripping away everything that wasn't truly you so that you could finally become who you were always meant to be. And here's the beautiful part. As you become more and more yourself, as you align more and more with your authentic nature, you start to attract people who resonate with that frequency. Not people who want to use you or control you or change you, but people who genuinely appreciate you. People who celebrate your growth. People who support your evolution. People who love you not despite who you are, but because of who you are. These are your true tribe. These are your soul family. And you could never have found them if you hadn't been willing to walk alone first. You could never have recognized them if you hadn't done the inner work. You could never have attracted them if you hadn't raised your own vibration. So you see, walking alone isn't the end of the story, it's just a chapter. It's an important chapter, a necessary chapter, but it's not where you stay forever. You walk alone so that you can learn to stand in your own power. You walk alone so that you can develop your own inner strength. You walk alone so that you can connect with your own divinity. And then, from that place of wholeness, from that place of completeness, you're able to come together with others in a way that's healthy, in a way that's balanced, in a way that's truly fulfilling. But let me tell you something else. Even when you find your tribe, even when you connect with your soul family, there will still be times when you need to walk alone. There will still be times when you need to go inward, when you need to reconnect with yourself, when you need to listen to that inner voice. Because the path of growth never ends. The path of evolution is ongoing. And each new level of consciousness requires you to shed another layer, to release another attachment, to let go of another limiting belief. This is why the chosen ones are always walking a path that others don't understand. They're not content with where they are. They're always growing, always evolving, always reaching for something higher. They're not satisfied with surface-level living. They want depth. They want meaning. They want truth. And that requires them to constantly move beyond their comfort zone, to constantly challenge themselves, to constantly push the boundaries of what they thought was possible. Most people settle. They find a comfortable place and they stop. They get to a certain point in their life and they decide that's good enough. They stop asking questions, they stop seeking answers, they stop growing. And there's no judgment in that. Everyone has the right to choose their own path. But if you're someone who can't stop growing, if you're someone who can't stop seeking, if you're someone who can't stop evolving, then you're going to naturally separate yourself from those who have chosen to settle. And that's okay. It has to be okay. Because you didn't come here to live someone else's life. You didn't come here to follow someone else's path. You came here to live your life, to walk your path, to fulfill your purpose. And your purpose might look very different from what others expect. Your purpose might require you to take risks that others aren't willing to take. Your purpose might demand sacrifices that others aren't willing to make. Your purpose might lead you down roads that others are too afraid to travel, but you have to follow it anyway. You have to honor it. You have to trust it, because that's why you're here. That's what you signed up for. Before you came into this physical body, before you took your first breath in this lifetime, you made an agreement. You agreed to be a light bearer. You agreed to be a way shower. You agreed to be someone who would wake up and help others wake up. Now, being chosen doesn't mean you're better than anyone else. It doesn't mean you're special in the way the ego wants to be special. It means you have a responsibility. It means you have a calling. It means you have a mission. And that mission is to live as an example of what's possible, to show others that there's another way to live, to demonstrate that you can break free from conditioning and programming and limitation, to prove that you can create a life of joy and peace and fulfillment regardless of external circumstances. But you can't do that if you're still trying to please everyone. You can't do that if you're still seeking approval from others. You can't do that if you're still living according to other people's rules and expectations. You have to be willing to stand alone in your truth. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to be criticized and judged and rejected, because that comes with the territory. That comes with choosing to live authentically in a world that rewards conformity. And the irony is that the very people who judge you, the very people who criticize you, the very people who reject you, they're often the ones who secretly admire what you're doing. They're often the ones who wish they had the courage to do the same thing. But they're too afraid. They're too attached to what others think. They're too invested in maintaining their image. So instead of following their own truth, they try to tear down yours. They try to make you doubt yourself. They try to make you question your path. Don't let them. Don't give your power away to people who are living in fear. Don't let other people's limitations become your limitations. Don't let other people's fears become your fears. You know what's true for you. You know what feels right in your heart. You know what your soul is calling you to do. Trust that. Honor that. Follow that no matter what anyone else says. Because here's the truth that most people don't understand. When you're aligned with your authentic self, when you're living in integrity with your highest values, when you're following your inner guidance, you're being supported by the entire universe, you're being backed by a power that's greater than any obstacle you'll face, you're being guided by an intelligence that knows exactly where you need to go and what you need to do. But you have to trust it. You have to surrender to it. You have to let go of trying to control everything and allow yourself to be led. And that requires tremendous faith. That requires tremendous courage. That requires you to walk into the unknown without any guarantees, without any assurances, without any safety nets. This is what separates the chosen ones from everyone else. They're willing to take that leap. They're willing to trust that leap. They're willing to walk forward even when they can't see the ground beneath their feet. They know that when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, when you're living your purpose, the universe conspires to support you. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. Opportunities appear that you couldn't have planned for. People show up at exactly the right time with exactly what you need. But none of that can happen if you're still clinging to the old. None of that can happen if you're still trying to fit into a life that's too small for you. None of that can happen if you're still surrounding yourself with people who don't support your growth. You have to be willing to let it all go. You have to be willing to walk away from anything and anyone that's not aligned with your highest good. You have to be willing to stand alone if that's what it takes. And I know that sounds scary. I know it feels overwhelming. I know there are moments when you question whether you're doing the right thing. There are moments when you wonder if maybe everyone else is right and you're wrong. There are moments when the loneliness feels so intense that you consider going back, giving up, settling for less than what you know you deserve. But in those moments, in those difficult moments, you have to remember why you started this path in the first place. You have to remember what it felt like to be living inauthentically, to be pretending to be someone you're not, to be silencing your true voice. You have to remember the pain of betraying yourself, the emptiness of living a lie, the despair of knowing you're meant for something more, but being too afraid to reach for it. And then you have to remember what it feels like now, even with all the challenges, even with all the difficulties, even with all the loneliness. Because even in the hard times, there's a peace that comes from living authentically. There's a joy that comes from honoring your truth. There's a power that comes from standing in your integrity. And that's worth more than any approval you could get from others. That's worth more than any relationship that requires you to be less than you are. That's worth more than any comfort you could find by playing it safe. You are not meant to play it safe. You are not meant to live a small life. You are not meant to hide your light, or diminish your gifts, or shrink yourself to fit into boxes that were never designed for you. You are meant to expand. You are meant to grow. You are meant to become the fullest expression of who you truly are. And yes, that means walking alone sometimes. Yes, that means facing your fears. Yes, that means being uncomfortable and uncertain and vulnerable. But it also means waking up every day knowing that you're living with integrity. It means looking in the mirror and recognizing the person staring back at you. It means going to bed at night with peace in your heart because you know you honored yourself. It means experiencing a connection to something greater than yourself that fills you up from the inside out. It means accessing a joy that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It means finding a strength that can't be shaken by other people's opinions. This is what's available to you when you choose the path of authenticity. This is what's waiting for you on the other side of fear. This is what you gain when you're willing to walk alone. And it's not that you'll always be alone. That's not the point. The point is that you're complete within yourself. You're whole within yourself. You don't need anyone else to make you feel worthy or valuable or enough. You already are all of those things. And from that place of wholeness, from that place of completeness, you're able to show up in the world in a completely different way. You're able to give from a place of overflow rather than emptiness. You're able to love from a place of abundance rather than need. You're able to serve from a place of strength rather than depletion. You become a source of light for others, not because you're trying to be, but because that's simply what you are when you're aligned with your true nature. This is the gift that the chosen ones bring to the world, not by preaching or teaching or trying to convince anyone of anything, but simply by being themselves, simply by living as an example of what's possible. Simply by demonstrating that you can break free from the matrix of conditioning and limitation and create a life that's authentic and meaningful and fulfilling. And yes, you'll walk alone at times. Yes, you'll be misunderstood at times. Yes, you'll be rejected at times. But you'll also experience moments of pure magic. You'll also witness miracles unfolding in your life. You'll also connect with people and experiences and opportunities that take your breath away. You'll also feel a sense of purpose and meaning that makes every challenge worth it. Because when you're living your truth, when you're following your calling, when you're being who you were meant to be, life becomes an adventure. It becomes exciting. It becomes meaningful. Every day becomes an opportunity to grow, to learn, to expand. Every challenge becomes a chance to deepen your faith, to strengthen your courage, to prove to yourself just how powerful you really are. And the more you do this, the more you walk this path, the more you realize that you were never really alone. You were being guided all along. You were being supported all along. You were being loved all along. The universe has been conspiring in your favor from the very beginning. Every experience, every challenge, every person who came into your life and left your life, it was all preparing you for this moment. It was all teaching you what you needed to learn. It was all shaping you into the person you're becoming. So trust the path. Trust the process. Trust yourself. You wouldn't have been given this calling if you weren't capable of fulfilling it. You wouldn't have been awakened if you weren't ready to handle what comes with awakening. You wouldn't be reading these words right now if you weren't exactly where you need to be. The chosen ones walk alone not because they're cursed, but because they're blessed. They're blessed with the awareness that there's more to life than what most people settle for. They're blessed with the courage to pursue that awareness even when it's difficult. They're blessed with the strength to stand in their truth even when they're standing alone. And eventually, they realize they're not standing alone at all. They're standing with the universe. They're standing with their higher self. They're standing with every awakened soul who has ever walked this path before them. They're part of a lineage of light bearers, of truth seekers, of way showers who throughout history have been willing to walk alone, to be different, to challenge the status quo, to live according to a higher truth. You are one of them. You've always been one of them. And now it's time to fully step into that role. It's time to stop apologizing for who you are. It's time to stop hiding your light. It's time to stop shrinking yourself. It's time to stand tall in your truth and let the world see you for who you really are. And yes, some people will turn away. Yes, some people will judge you. Yes, some people will reject you. But the right people will find you. The right people will recognize you. The right people will celebrate you. And more importantly, you'll find yourself. You'll recognize yourself. You'll celebrate yourself, because that's what this whole experience is really about. It's not about winning the approval of others. It's not about being liked or accepted or understood by everyone. It's about coming home to yourself. It's about remembering who you really are beneath all the conditioning and programming and false beliefs. It's about reconnecting with the divine essence that has always been within you. And when you do that, when you really do that, everything changes. Your whole life transforms. Not necessarily in the external ways you might expect, but in the internal ways that truly matter. You find peace, you find joy, you find love, you find meaning, you find purpose, and you realize that this is what you've been searching for all along. Not out there in the world, but right here within yourself. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep growing, keep evolving, keep being true to yourself no matter what. Because the world needs you. The world needs your light. The world needs your authenticity. The world needs your courage. The world needs people who are willing to be themselves in a world that's constantly trying to turn them into something else. You are one of the chosen ones. And you're walking alone right now because that's exactly what you need to be doing. But you're not really alone. You're being held. You're being guided. You're being loved. And you're exactly where you need to be. Trust that. Believe that. Know that. And keep walking forward into the beautiful life that's waiting for you on the other side of fear.